Hey there, welcome back to the Free Black Women's Library YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for liking this video. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I am on a mission to have 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. Lofty goals, but please feel free in helping me make that happen by clicking subscribe. Thank you. So also want to send lots of love and gratitude to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting my work and my life. I appreciate y'all so much. And thank you to the folks who've been coming back again and again and again every week, giving me your likes and leaving me these long, insightful, thoughtful comments about this series, about the characters, about the story, about the different layers that are taking place within this story. I love that. I love that. So please continue to do that. We have 3 episodes left, and I plan on having a watch party, social media type of watch party for the finale. So stay tuned to hear about that so we can really engage and get into it. And speaking of getting into it, let's do that. So, we are talking about the series I May Destroy You, written, produced, directed, and starring Michaela Cole, based on the true-to-life experience of Michaela Cole's. And it's described as a story about consent, but it's so much more than that. You know, it's so much more than consent. That is a theme that runs all throughout, but there's a lot of stuff going on in this series. Episode 8 is called Line Spectrum Border, and I feel like it could have been called Boundaries. Whoever's coming up with the names for each episode is a genius. This title is so perfect for all that takes place. I feel like this episode is about boundaries, and it's about gray areas. It's about like that murky limbo space and how it can be really volatile or really toxic. And really unhealthy, bad things can happen in that space when you're not clear, when you don't have definitive ways, clear, honest ways of communicating. So it was pretty powerful. I'm just putting my phone on airplane mode so it doesn't go off while we do this. So I'm going to give a quick recap, and then I'm going to go into my special section that I call 4 Hurts, 4 Heals, and a Favorite. All right, so let's do this. So the episode starts out, and Arabella is in therapy. She's in that group therapy group that Theo is leading, and Theo is smiling at her, and there's a person giving testimony, and Arabella cuts them off and interrupts their testimony and starts talking about their testimony and takes over. Now, let me tell you something. If you're ever in group therapy, this is the number 1 rule. Do not crosstalk. When someone's giving testimony, you're supposed to be quiet until they're done. And then you say, thank you for sharing, and then the next person goes. Cross-talking is against the rules of group therapy. So this kind of let me know that Theo doesn't know what she's doing. But anyway, Arabella said some interesting things in this little bitty monologue, and it's pretty much, like I said, about those boundaries and crossing the line. And she says in one part, in this gray area where nothing was clear, no one could be clear. And she's talking about that Bob, that infamous villain of the story, Bob, who pushes boundaries and who gaslights you when you confront him on the boundaries that he's pushed. So he tries to make you think you're crazy and so on and so forth. And it's a really interesting, there's interesting things happening in that moment, because not only is she dominating the circle, but it kind of sounds like she's talking about herself when what happens later happens. So, you know, and we get title credits roll, and then Kwame, Terri, and Arabella are in the park having a young, fun little time talking, and Kwame's talking about how he wants to date women now, which doesn't make sense because Kwame's gay. He's not attracted to women. And it becomes even more obvious when Arabella says boob badge, and he looks like he's disgusted. So he's like, sexuality is a spectrum, and I can't have sex with men right now. So I'm like, okay, but so you could just take a break, go to therapy. You don't need to be having sex all the time. Just because you're not having sex with men doesn't mean you need to have sex with women. How about you just have sex with yourself and just be with yourself, Kwame? All right? But anywho, he's like, I'm going to try sex with women. And Terri and Bella are like, that's not going to work, but okay. And Nillifer calls him. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. And he asks her out on a date. She's a white girl, very cutesy, very excited to be around him. She's into black guys. She's so into black guys. I'm like, please stop saying that. Like, you sound like you're fetishizing and objectifying black men. That's what you're doing, but don't be so obvious about it. Girl, calm down. Just, you can say, oh, I like black guys and keep it moving. Or matter of fact, don't say that. Just keep that to yourself, all right? So, anywho, Bella gets a phone call, and it turns out it's Officer Fumi. So Bella and Terri go to the police station. The white woman police officer, whose name we don't ever find out, it turns out that she's pregnant. She's ready to drop. Then Officer Fumi comes in, and she's pregnant. There's something significant happening with them two being pregnant at the same time, both getting ready to drop. I'm still thinking about it. But, the girls are excited. Terri and Bella are like, oh, so cute. Like, are you going to tape each other's births? They're assuming they're friends. These two are just co-workers. Like, Fumi's like, no, we don't get down like that. And Bella and Terri are like, well, we would have a YouTube channel and have an Insta story the entire birth, and doing way too much, as always, the both of them, which is fine. Like, it's in this moment, it feels kind of harmless, even though they're being really silly. But they talk about being pregnant bays. Your birth is my birth. Officer Fumi tells Bella that they're gonna drop the investigation because, they proceeded all the leads that they had, and none of them really led anywhere. It turns out the DNA didn't match. The person they thought was the suspect, his DNA didn't match the DNA that was found on Arabella's clothes. Terry's looking mad guilty in this moment. Did y'all see her face? She was like, wait, Terri, you're not gonna say nothing? Terri, you're not gonna say nothing, Terri. Girl, I'm rooting for you right now, baby. I'm not necessarily Team Terri, but I'm rooting for you, boo. Like, say something. She was like, she could have easily said, well, Simon called me that night. This is what time he called me. This is when he left. Let's talk to him and see who was around. She didn't say shit. Fine. Still holding out hope that Terry's going to do the right thing. But anywho, next scene. They are still in the police station. It's like an hour later, and Bella's got all of her clothes that were considered like evidence. They've given her back her things in these garbage bags, and Terry's like, let's go, babe. Let's go. We've been here a while. There's no reason for us to continue to stay here. Let's go find some joy. Let's go find some self-care. And in this moment, I like Terri. So, I go back and forth. I mean, I know she's overcompensating out of guilt, but what she's saying are the things that Bella needs to hear. So it's fine. And Bella's not really listening until she says, being around people who affirm us, make us feel good. Bella's thinking, and the wheels are turning in her mind. And then she's like, I know where I want to go. And Terry's like, let's go, babe. Let's do it. Tell me. And Bella's like, well, I don't have any money. And Terry's like, I got you. Sidebar. What does Terri do for work? Like, is she a waitress? Did she score a commercial? Where'd she get money for a round-way ticket to Italy? From Heathrow to Italy that same day? That probably cost something, right? And she was able to afford that. But, whatever. Plot. So she's like, I want to go to Italy. And Terry's like, I don't think that's a good idea. And she's like, yeah, it is. That's what I want to do. And Terry's like, Biagio is trash. Like, are you dickmatized or what? He's a dick. Like, he's a hypocrite. He's anti-drugs, but he sold you drugs. And Bella's like stubborn as fuck. And somehow she manages to guilt and emotionally manipulate Terri into paying for her plane ticket to Italy. Arabella runs home. She shoves her bags of evidence underneath her bed and pulls out her passport and her papers and that ratty pink wig. That wig is tired, okay? Stop it. She pulls out that ratty pink wig, puts it on, mats it down, calls a car, goes to the airport to fly off to Italy to see Biagio. That's what she thinks she needs to do right now. So, okay. That's what she thinks is going to make her feel better. Seeing that dude. Yeah? Oh, my wrap is like... Hold on. Let me fix this. So, anyway. Meanwhile, back in London, Kwame and Nullifer are at dinner. And she's doing that self-deprecating first date thing that I don't like, that people do, like girls, women do this, where they kind of like put themselves down, like, oh, I must look a mess. And, you know, Kwame's complimenting on her hair, and she's like, my hair is the worst thing about me. I have a hat in my bag to keep it covered, so just in case I find you looking at it for too long. Girl, stop it. Don't do that. Don't do that self-deprecating thing. When somebody gives you a compliment about something on your body, on your person, just say thank you. Just enjoy it, embrace it, take it in. Don't push back on the compliment, and don't over-dramatize how much the compliment doesn't make sense. That was maybe my first or second ramble of this video. Anywho, so we go back to Italy, and Bella's at the airport. She lands, she catches a car. She doesn't have enough money to get the whole way, so she has the car to leave her off a little bit early. And we don't really know how much money she has left, but she really looks a hot mess. Like, she looks scattered and out of control and just super reckless, like wired. So, you know, there's cause for concern. But I had my fingers crossed that maybe things will work out. No. She's already wilded out. Her phone is not working because she's out of minutes, out of international minutes. She makes it to Biagio's place, so she can't really call him because her phone's not working. And she rings his bell. No one answers. This little old lady comes with her dog, and she walks into, like, the apartment complex, the same place. She opens the gate. Bella sneaks in behind her. She holds the door with her foot and sneaks in behind her. And then she sneaks into the building. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing right now? Like, you're really doing way too much. Like, why didn't you just wait outside? You know, he's not home. Obviously, he didn't answer the bell, answer the door. And come to find out, he hasn't been answering her calls for a while. So, you know, so she goes up to the apartment, and he leaves the spare key, like most people. He leaves a spare key by the door. I'm gonna have a little water. Have water nearby. Something to drink. You know, because it's hot and gotta stay hydrated. So, anywho, so she takes the key and she goes into his apartment. And she just is looking around. She sits down. And then we're back in London. On Kwame's date. They're walking together. That's when she starts talking about, what are you into? Now, this could have been the moment when Kwame could have shared the fact that he's gay and exploring, or that he's on the spectrum and he dates everybody. He wasn't very specific. So this is a gray area. This isn't the first gray area. Those are my people outside. So this wasn't the first gray area that was explored, but it was pretty significant because she asked him, what are you into? Are you into white girls? Are you into black girls? Are you into Greek girls? I'm into black guys. She says it more than once. And he says, I'm kind of open, you know, which is true, but is not the real the real tea. You gotta tell people the real tea. When you're trying to form friendships and relationships, give people real tea. You know, don't be afraid. If they're not going to be into you, if they're going to deny you, have them deny you early to avoid all that drama later. So they go up into her apartment, and it's obvious what she wants. They're on the bed. Kwame's looking shook, stiff. She's rubbing on his leg, kissing on his face. She knows what she wants. I'm not mad at her, but I'm mad at the fact that Nullifer, he's not kissing you back. He's not receptive to all of this affection that you're serving. Notice, you know, this is a blurry line right here because he's not saying no, but he's also not saying yes. And I'm all about the enthusiastic yes. Are you into this? Are you into what I'm doing? Does it feel good? If you, ooh, this is bothering me. If you can't give me enthusiastic yes, baby, please keep going, I'm chilling. Because I need the lines to be clear. You know, no spectrums. Line, definitively. Oh, I shouldn't have kept messing with it. It was fine the way it was. All right. That's fine. I'm gonna leave it like that. Ooh, child. Oh, I cannot. All right, y'all. Hold tight. Actually, I can keep talking while I do this. So she starts kissing him, and then she lays down on the bed, and he's still sitting up straight, and she pulls him down onto the bed. Okay? So, you know, we don't necessarily think that she forced him, right? But it felt obvious to me that he wasn't into it. I don't know if she was just like too excited not to notice. So back in Italy, ooh, child, they could have called this episode Cringe City. Back in Italy, Biagio comes home. Arabella's sitting at his little table. And he's like, Bella? She jumps up and he says, what the fuck are you doing here? Legitimately angry. And she's like, oh, I came to see you. I wanted to say sorry for everything that happened with the whole DNA. I felt so bad that you had to deal with that you had to go to the police. And he's like, forensics. And she's like, yeah, I felt bad you had to deal with that. And he's like, you came all the way here just to apologize? And she's like, yeah, and I also wanted to see you. You know, I called you and you weren't answering my calls. And I'm just here with songs and sorries and, you know, hoping that you don't hate me. And he's looking at her like, whew, Lord have mercy, y'all. This scene was a lot. And then she says, and I remembered la pillola. And I looked that up, and it means pill. Because he says it back, la pillola. And she's like, mm-hmm. And he goes, you're crazy. And then she says, and pizza from some restaurant. I got your favorite. I ordered. And he's like, you're crazy. Now, keep in mind, Biagio's mom and his sister were both drug addicts who died of an overdose. So just being in a relationship with Bella, he was probably like already triggering a lot of emotions in him, a lot of fear, a lot of hesitation, a lot of toxicity. So keeping that in mind. The way he dealt with her in this moment was very interesting because at first I kind of was like, is he being dishonest by continuing to engage with her like everything is fine? You know, asking for her to read to him what she's written. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, y'all. It's always something. You know, he says, read to me what you're writing. She says, I haven't read it to myself. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Hopefully that'll stop soon. So frustrating. And I don't know what to do. This is so frustrating. Are y'all with me? Okay. So, oh, thank God. Thank God. So, you know, he says, read it to me. And she's like, I haven't even read it to myself. And then they go sit on the bed. She's like, I want to be near you. Sit down. He sits next to her. He snuggles with her. She says, I stopped doing drugs, which is a lie. She's an addict. She lied. She was just doing cocaine at Terri's party. You know, she's like, I stopped doing drugs. I stopped smoking. I don't know if she stopped smoking, but she definitely didn't stop doing drugs. And he's like, oh, you know, and he's got this look on his face, and it's almost as if he's in pain, but he's also kind of, you know, angry, but also kind of sad, but also scared. And then the bell rings, and he looks really scared. And for some reason, I thought, like, some woman would show up. Like, that would be very typical. A typical trope in this moment would be for his new girlfriend to show up. And she'd be, like, the opposite of Bella. Like, a white, voluptuous, long-haired woman who's just very sexy and very sure of herself and very confident. That's where this type of scene would go in another project, but no. Bella goes to get the pizza, and when she comes back, the door is locked. She knocks on the door. He doesn't answer. She continues to knock. First she's concerned, and then she realizes that he's not answering the door on purpose. And then she's like, you know, come on, when I said that I would stay for as long as you want me to, I was only being dramatic. I'm not that intense. Let's talk. Please open the door. Let's talk about this. You know, I'm leaving in the morning. I have a return ticket. It's fine. Like, don't freak out. I'm sorry. Let's talk. And he's still not answering. And then she realizes that her passport is still in there, and she's like, well, actually, I can't leave until you open the door and give me my passport. So now I am at your mercy. And he slides the passport under the door. And let me tell you something. I'm guessing Arabella's character might be in her late 20s. And I'm going to be honest. When I was that age, I could see myself being in this position where I'm in a situationship with a lover, thinking that it's more than it is, and seeking attention and affection and compassion from that lover, and being way off base. I have been there. But when he slid that passport under that door, that was your cue to leave, boo. That was your cue to leave. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Go home. Like, he's not, because that confirms the fact that he's fine in there. He's clear and he's fine. He don't want you, boo. All right? So if you didn't get it from when he was ignoring your phone calls, and if you didn't get it when he never claimed you, never came to London to visit you, you were always flying to Italy to visit him, he didn't rush to your side when you were sexually assaulted. Instead, he actually blamed you. He victim blamed you and made you feel like shit. There were a lot of clues, and you didn't catch those clues. Arabella is incredibly obtuse, and she's young. So that's something that I can attest to. Maybe that's why I like the show so much, is there's a part of me that relates to her character when I was much, much younger. You know, always kind of looking around the situation and trying and imagining things are not what they are. I have an idea about doing a video about this show where I talk about the characters and assign each one of them an astrological sign of the zodiac and the reasons why. And I might do that just for fun. But either way, he slides the passport under the door and she starts freaking out. She starts freaking out, kicking the door down, cursing him out, going off, being violent, being angry, being loud as fuck to the point where the neighbors are complaining. And she comes to the point where she almost kicks the fucking door down. And he opens the door. He's got a gun in his hand. He doesn't aim it at her. And he doesn't necessarily threaten her with it. But the fact that he's holding it is a threat, of course. And he says, "Get the fuck away from my door." Now, in this moment, this might sound weird, but I was grateful that he was so clear, you know, because I feel like he had an opportunity to be clear before. That's a whole nother tangent, you know. Maybe he wasn't clear because he was afraid of her. I don't know. I feel like he could have said, "I don't want you here. Could you please leave?" a lot earlier. For some reason, he didn't. We can talk about the reasons why he never said, "Why are you in my apartment? I don't want to talk to you. The reason why I didn't return your calls because I don't want to deal with you anymore. Please leave. I never want to see you again." You know, why he didn't do that? Maybe he didn't know how to be that honest, or maybe he was afraid that she would freak out and break things in his apartment because he thought she was crazy. Maybe he was triggered by her presence because she's an addict and she obviously reminds him of his mother and his sister. Who knows why Biagio wasn't able to verbalize the fact that he didn't want Michaela there. Arabella. Who knows why he didn't verbalize that until that moment. Get the fuck away from my door. Okay, now you get it, girl. She ran. She ran off. She looks so scared. It's not funny, but it's like, okay, now you get it. He don't want you. Now you get it. So I have this thing where I talk about how some people need to touch the fire before they realize that it's hot and that it burns. Arabella is one of those people. Some people, they can feel the heat of the fire, so they step back and they stay away from it. Some people step into the fire and they let it singe and sizzle and literally have skin falling off their body before they take note, this is dangerous. This thing I'm in right here is actually hurting me, you know? And I feel like Arabella is one of those people in this moment who needs to stick her hand into the fire. So I feel like that gun was that burn. Meanwhile, back in London, Kwame and Homegirl are in the bed. They're having sex. Not sure if he's enjoying it. He looks a little confused and tentative. She's like, harder, harder. She goes to grab on his booty, and he grabs her hand and pushes it down in the same way that Horny Man 808 pushed his hand down. And then starts to have flashbacks of the rape. And he does to Nullifer what the rapist did to him. He does to Nullifer what Horny Man 808 did to him. Pin him down and grind him really hard into the bed, but she loves it. And he hops off. She's all smiles. After sex glow. He's looking like he wants to cry his eyes out. And then they're talking post-coitus. She's rapping. She doesn't say the N-word. Instead of saying the N-word, which I also do not use, she says ninja. I say ninja. He makes fun of her for not saying it, and she's like, well, I have a lot of black friends and it's very complicated and I don't want to offend my black friends. And I was kind of confused at Kwame because it seemed like he thought it would be okay for her to say it, and it's not. So that was weird for me, because white people don't ever need to say the N-word. You can substitute it for whatever you want and sound as crazy as you want. If you want to rap, just don't say that word and you'll be fine. And so I wasn't mad at her for not saying it, but the homophobia jumped out. Bloop! And she was like, well, I can't say fag if I want a cigarette, you know, and he was like, well, I'm gay. And he's like, and she's talking about how they appropriate the female species. I was like, are you homophobic and a TERF? And she doesn't believe him at first, because he says, when he says I'm gay, she's like, we just had sex, how can you be gay? And he says, well, he starts stuttering, sexuality is a spectrum, blah 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 blah. And she's like, oh fuck. So he starts crying because she just goes off on him. She drags him, calls him a fucking dick, calls him a virgin, kicks him out of her house. She's pissed. He gets a click on his Grindr app. Are you horny? Yes. So Kwame's back to his behavior. You know, I don't know why he just doesn't go to therapy. It's like, or just be alone, let yourself heal. But, you know, maybe, I don't know. Do y'all think Kwame's a sex addict? I wonder. His first sexual experience sounded like rape, although he didn't categorize it as such. But either way, he's back to his antics. Bella's in Italy, sneaking into the resort area where her and Biagio first hung out. That time they watched the sun come up. She goes in, she sits on the beach, tries to make a phone call, probably gonna call Terri or Kwame. She remembers she's out of minutes. She falls asleep on the beach, wakes up, ratty wig, looking a hot mess, and walks into the water. And that's the end. Really beautiful music playing as the credits roll, and there's like a of the water that happens almost as if it inhaled her or, you know, consumed her or swallowed her. So that was it. Really good episode. Really, really good episode. Once again, I feel like the theme for this episode was that murky area, those shades of gray, those times when we're not clear in our communication, and clear in the way we relate to other people, and honest and truthful and upfront, you know, and just walking that line. This idea of the spectrum, no definitive way of being in the world, not being that grounded, how it can work against you. It can come back to bite you in the ass, you know, playing with these shades of gray and with these miscommunications. So I feel like that was the theme, hence the title was so deep. Line, spectrum, border. So let me talk about my 4 hurts, my 4 heals, and my favorite thing about this episode. My 4 hurts. The first hurt is Biagio's gun. That was hurtful. Woo chow. Imagine your lover not pointing a gun at you, but like brandishing a gun in your presence. Scary. My second hurt. The disappointment moment with the police, the investigation being dropped, which is realistic and true to life. It is very, very rare. There's a very small percentage of victims of rape and victims of sexual assault, court cases leading to convictions. Arrest and conviction is very, very small percentage. That rarely happens. So that was true to life, and unfortunately it was also a hurt. The third hurt is Kwame's white woman and her homophobia that jumped way the fuck out with a capital H. Appropriating the female species? Girl, calm down. Ain't nobody appropriating. Some men are just gay and they're not trying to be women. And please stop it with the turf nonsense. If you're out there with your turfy thoughts, do some reading and research. Okay, not gonna rant. My fourth hurt. Terri is still lying. Terri, can you please tell Arabella what happened? It could help the case. It could help her case now. So now you're not just like lying to her in a really weird way where you're hiding the truth. You could also help her case. So those are my four hurts. Biagio's gun, the case being dropped, the white woman's homophobia, and Terri still lying. My four heels. Their friendship. I love that scene when they were all in the park and they were like playing and laughing and giggling on top of each other. It kind of reminded me of how good and how comfortable and how intimate and how sweet it can be to be with friends, just kind of like teasing each other and playing around and being surprised and like joking. That was really cute. So the friendship. My second heel, Arabella is still in therapy, even though I really want her to keep going to that black woman therapist that she saw in the past episode. And I still don't know how I feel about this group therapy thing, but I know that group therapy is incredibly helpful. So the fact that she's going to that is a heel. I highly recommend group therapy. Excuse me. And my third heel, and this is gonna sound twisted, but her passport, the way Biagio gave her her passport. He didn't try to hold it or hold on to it. He was just like, listen, here, get out, like, go. I don't know why that moment just felt very like wake up type of healing. You know, when people tell you exactly who they are, believe them, right? So maybe that's why I found that healing, is because Biagio told you who he is in that moment. He locked you out, girl. He locked you out, and he wasn't going to answer the door. He wasn't even going to open the door to hand you your passport and say goodbye. He slid it under the door. When people are that clear with you about where they stand, that shit is hurtful, but it is also healing, because you know that they don't need your energy. They don't deserve your energy. The fourth heel is the water. Being at the beach, being around any type of body of water. Water is nature's first medicine, nature's first healer. So if you have a headache, drink some water. If you're not feeling good, take a shower, take a bath. Whether it's a pool or an ocean or a lake or a river, being near water is very healing. It's very soothing. It's very powerful. And those waves, just breathe with them. So those are my four heels: the friendship, the group therapy, the passport, the water. You know, and I also wrote here that Kwame, although he played himself, he lived in his truth. Because he didn't have to tell her that he was gay. He could have just kept that to himself and left. So I'm kind of counting that as a half heel. Him living in his truth like that. You know, when somebody is saying something about gay folks or trans folks, and you are gay or trans or both, you could not say anything. You know, you could just let them continue to be trash. Or you could confront them and be like, hey, I'm in your presence and I'm those things you're talking about. You know, and that's powerful. And I respect him for that, even though she dragged him. All right. And my favorite thing about this episode is the aesthetics, okay? The visuals, all right? The set design. Biagio's apartment. I love Biagio's apartment. The colors, the layers, how it felt in that space. Cluttered and cozy at the same time. Loved it. Nullifer's bedroom. I loved her headboard and the wallpaper and the lighting. And the camera work, the overhead shots. There was an overhead shot of Kwame and Nullifer in the bed that was so beautiful, where they were kind of just talking. And I didn't feel like they had sexual chemistry, but I felt like they had maybe could have had friendship chemistry, especially because it really seemed like Kwame thought she was a cool person. So I really like that shot. And then I really, really love the shot of Arabella in the water when she's walking in the water. It's way overhead and it's just a sea of blue, clear blue, ripply, soft waves. And she's just walking and she's walking. And then we get another shot of the beach. And you see her walking and walking until she gets smaller and smaller. And then she's gone. Credits roll. That was dope. That was dope. It's my favorite thing about the episode, the set design and the art direction, the camera work. All right, so that's it. So tell me, what did you like about this episode? What did you think of what Biagio did? Did you think he was trash, or do you think Arabella brought it on herself for going all the way to Italy? And do you think Terri is ever going to tell Arabella about Simon? And are we going to see Simon's wife ever again, or his mistress? Remember last scene of episode 1 when she showed up at her apartment? We never found out what happened. Anywho, once again, this video is a Rambly reaction. It's long enough, so if you've watched the entire thing, drop a red heart in the comments letting me know that you watched the whole video, even if you don't feel like leaving a long-winded comment. I'm just curious to see who's here for the entire thing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.